Hello, welcome back to the New York School of Design Sewing Basics course. Once again, I'm Hannah Noth, and I'm going to be your instructor for this course series. And today we're going to learn how to sew an invisible zipper. So this is what an invisible zipper presser foot looks like. Yours will look just like this, or at least similar. They look a lot different from a regular presser foot, and even a zipper presser foot, don't they? The key for invisible zipper presser foot is that they have tracks running along the underside of them. These little grooves on either side of the presser foot on the bottom are where you will be sewing your invisible zipper. That's right. The beauty of an invisible zipper presser foot is that you can sew right next to the seam. You don't worry about having to have any distance in between your seam and the zipper teeth. Technically, you can sew an invisible zipper with a regular zipper presser foot. And actually, you will need your regular zipper presser foot for a very small portion of sewing any invisible zipper. However, if you were to sew the entirety of an invisible zipper with a standard presser foot, you would find that you are at a greater distance in between the zipper teeth and your seam because the regular zipper presser foot just can't get as close. So you definitely want to use an invisible zipper presser foot, if at all possible, for sewing a nice quality, actually invisible zipper. Go ahead and put your invisible zipper presser foot on your machine. Make sure your invisible zipper is open, and you're going to pin the right side of the invisible zipper to the right side of one of your pieces of fabric. Now, in order to do this, not only do you want to line up the zipper tape with the top of your fabric, just like a regular zipper, but you want to make sure that your invisible zipper is pinned a distance away from the edge of the fabric that is in accordance with the seam allowance that you're using for the rest of the garment that you're sewing your invisible zipper to. Okay, so for example, let's say I'm adding this invisible zipper to a skirt that has a 5/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to set my handy seam gauge to 5/8 inch, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark 5/8 inch away from the bottom of the fabric to my zipper teeth, because that's basically where my seam will be, and then pin. So I take my seam gauge, I've lined up my zipper tape with the top of the fabric here. I have it at 5/8 inch, so I'm going to move my zipper so it's exactly 5/8 inch from the edge of the fabric, and pin. This will help ensure that your invisible zipper seamlessly, no pun intended, blends into the rest of your seam that you're sewing it onto. Okay, so my invisible zipper is pinned on this side to my fabric with the 5/8 inch seam allowance. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take my time and I'm going to sew this seam all the way down until I get to that notch at the bottom, making sure to backstitch at the beginning and at the end. When you are lining up your zipper teeth with your invisible zipper presser foot for the first time, make sure that you feed your zipper teeth into that groove on the correct side of your invisible presser foot. It will set you up for success and to stay on track as you sew down the length of your zipper. Just a little bit. And look at how nice and close. Look at how nice and close the seam is to the zipper teeth, thanks to the invisible zipper presser foot. My seam is nice and even along the nice even length of my zipper teeth, and it's also an even length from the edge of the fabric to the edge of the zipper teeth. And I've already measured to make sure that it's 5/8 inch in alignment with the rest of the seam allowance for my garment. All right, go ahead and close your invisible zipper. You're almost halfway finished. Before we do anything else, we're going to take our fabric and our invisible ink marker. I've already made a light marking here. I'm just going to make it a little bit more solid. You want to make a marking on the either side of your zipper that lines up with this fabric notch. We make this marked in order to ensure that our zipper seam is even on either side of the zipper, because we're sewing two separate pieces of fabric together, right? And it's so important that our invisible zipper is aligned the exact same amount on either side of the fabric. Otherwise it will be uneven and you'll have to rip the whole thing out and start over again. So don't be afraid to make nice clear markings in alignment with the notch in the edge of your seam. Go ahead and open your zipper again. And we're going to do the same thing on our other piece of fabric. So I have my notch already noted on this fabric, like the other one. I'm going to go ahead and line up right side to right side the zipper and the fabric. So I have the notch lined up down here with the fabric marking that I just made. And I'm going to do the same thing where I take my seam gauge and measure it and turn it around. Again, that's just easier to pin the zipper this way. And I'm actually going to start pinning at this notch marking. If for some reason my measurements are slightly off and my zipper tape runs a little longer or shorter than the top edge of my fabric here, that's okay, because I'll be folding that down to finish the seam anyways. This bottom part is where it absolutely must be even for closing your zipper seamlessly and for quality. So I'm going to make sure my notch is lined up with my fabric marking here, measure to 5/8 inch, and pin it. Alright, so line your zipper back up with your invisible zipper presser foot, but this time you're going to use the other groove for sewing this side of the zipper. And as you can see here, the top of the seam is lined up. There's no gapping at the top here with the top pole of the zipper, even all the way down the invisible zipper. And then here at the bottom, where my thumb is, they also line up nice and close here. So I'm really pleased with the evenness of this invisible zipper, and I can finish it off. If you notice any puckers, folds, or gaps, anything like that, then you need to remove one side of your invisible zipper, realign it, and resew it. In this case, we're good to go though. Here's how you'll finish out your invisible zipper, because as of right now, at the bottom, it's not finished, right? It's just open. Here's how we do that. We're going to switch out our presser foot to a regular zipper presser foot. So not quite a regular presser foot yet, although we'll use that in a moment. Place the zipper foot back on your machine. And what we need to do at the bottom of our zipper here is to continue the seam here. So remember, this is at 5/8 inch seam allowance where we sew the invisible zipper seam. And we want the entirety of our seam to be at 5/8 inch, or at least as close to 5/8 as we can get. So we're going to use a regular zipper presser foot to sew where the seam is, or at least as close to it as we can get, and just a little bit past it with the zipper moved totally out of the way. Feel free to place a pin in your zipper if you'd like to make sure that you don't accidentally catch in your seam. So you're only going to be sewing a short distance with your regular zipper presser foot from this seam down until you're out of the way of the zipper. So here's our nice, complete, invisible zipper. And that's it. That's all there is to sewing invisible zippers. I hope that you're surprised and happy and confident in your new zipper skills, because now you know how to sew not only a regular kissing zipper, but also an invisible kissing zipper. It's pretty awesome to know how to sew these closures, including buttonholes, which we learned previously, because they're essential if you're going to expand your garment sewing in any case. Thanks so much for watching this week. Stay tuned for next week.